Hi everyone, my name is Olaosebikan Olamide, and I'll be presenting on the topic, the growing importance of cassava cultivation, processing and marketing to livelihood security in Nigeria, a life history analysis. I'll be presenting on behalf of the listed authors. Introduction. Various aspects and activities along the cassava value chain have become major means or sources of livelihood to many men and women for generations in Nigeria, thus creating an important niche for cassava as a food and livelihood security crop. Evidences have shown the presence of a diversified workforce or task force in the cassava value chain that is mostly located in the rural communities, where, of course, gender is a reality. Cassava workforce consists of individual, household or couple, and group of young and adult men and women who possesses skills that makes the value chain activity seem effortless. Insight into how cassava workforce or user segments perceive cassava importance to their unfolding life experiences and development can inform cassava's future outlook and ongoing inclusive efforts and initiatives. This study examined the perception of cassava actors in rural Nigeria on the importance cassava plays in sustaining and increasing the livelihood security and status. The overall objective of the study is to gain in-depth understanding of cassava importance to the livelihood security and well-being status of rural actors. Actors' occupational, economic, and social cultural trajectories were examined over a period of 10 years, that is from 2007 to 2017. Specific objectives are to describe the occupational, economic, and sociocultural trajectories of cassava actor over a period of 10 years in the study area. Secondly, to determine the livelihood impact of cassava on the well-being, power, and freedom of actors in the study area. Thirdly, to identify the challenges encountered by cassava actors according to their gender categories in the study area. And lastly, to identify needs that, when addressed, will significantly improve the livelihood security of cassava actors in the study area. Methodology. A multi-stage technique was used to purposefully select participants based on occupation, skill, social segment categories, and practical engagement in participatory varietal selection activities, including processing and food product evaluation. In total, 62 life history comprising 25 couple and 12 individual cassava actors were interviewed in selected communities in Imo and Osun states in Nigeria. An adapted Genovate Life History interview guide was used to obtain qualitative information on occupational, economic, and social positionality of participants. Gender analysis was computed using social segments and intersections like indigent status and other emerging segments. Cassava as a primary livelihood and option for different social segments. Our findings shows that cassava farming serves as primary livelihood to most men and women in Osun and Imo states. Importantly, there are regional peculiarities. For instance, in Osun state, cassava farming serves as an important primary livelihood to mostly male non-indigents or migrants from the north central and neighboring countries. And in Imo state, cassava farming serves as a primary livelihood to mostly retired men and women. Most women combine cassava farming with its processing and trading cassava products in Osun and Imo states, while most men combine cassava farming with managing processing center and other non-farming livelihood options in Osun states. In Imo states, processing are usually done in an household setting. Cassava serves as primary livelihood for different purposes for each social group. It serves as an adaptation option for non-indigents identified in Osun State. It serves as a self-reliant option for retirees in Imo State, and also serves as an option to young male to further their education or meet their future aspirations. Occupational life history. Within the period of 10 years, more adult women in Imo and Osun switched from non-farming to farming livelihoods. Reasons given by adult women included household food security, meaning sufficient and less expenses spent on foodstuff. An adult female in Imo said Farming is a regular thing we do to put food on the table because prices of foodstuffs keep rising. Another reason mentioned by adult women included ability to live an independent life. An adult female an adult female in Ocean said, I can now spend money on my own because not everything you request from your husband he provides. That quote is validating the ability to live an independent life. Lastly, adult women mentioned meeting educational needs of children. Adult men mentioned or attributed their switch from non-farming to farming to increase the network of friends and exposure as well as acquisition of assets. Economic life history. Assets acquired by participants are livelihood related and jointly owned. For instance, land is a prioritized asset by all, followed by housing and shelter to reduce expenses on rent. And lastly, transportation means to ease movement of produce. Assets peculiar to and owned by women only is processing machine like miller. This highlights the importance of mechanization intervention in some processing activities done by mostly women to reduce drudgery. In Osun State, in terms of savings, in Osun State, men and women had higher saving opportunity, while in few cases, women had no spousal permission to save and they make efforts to save secretly. Saving opportunity may be a factor to assets acquisition. Sociocultural history. Group membership for men and women includes the farmer and self-help group. Women in Imo State were members of cooperative group, while men were members of ethnic group in Osun State. Impact of group membership included financial assistance, social support, increase in respect and recognition, and being independent. Findings related to livelihood impact of cassava on well-being. The livelihood impact of cassava on the well-being status of smallholder cassava actors shows that most smallholder cassava participants in the study area are experiencing improving well-being, while some well-being status remain the same over the period of 10 years, and few had declining or experiencing declining well-being. Livelihood impacts on improving well-being for men and women was attributed to expansion, meaning more plots of land cultivated, and maturity. Men added assets acquisition, migration, and self-motivations to factors or reasons for improving well-being status, while women added use of family, labor, that is grown children, as well as combining 2 to 3 value chain activities as a factor for their improving well-being over time. Declining well-being by men were attributed to health-related issues, while women attributed declining well-being to non-spousal support, increasing household size and responsibility. Participants that remained at same level of well-being, that had no changes in their level of well-being over the period of 10 years. For men attributed their same level well-being status to no financial support, while women attributed the same level well-being status to spousal restriction, meaning restriction in terms of savings and mobility. Livelihood impact of cassava on ladder of power and freedom. Livelihood impacts resulted in more women moving from step 1 to step 3 and 5 respectively over a period of 10 years in Osun and Imo State. Rise in ladder step of power and freedom by men was attributed to socio-cultural factors such as marital status, maturity in age, experience, and exposure, while women attributed rise in ladder step of power and freedom to economic factors such as employment opportunities brought about by the establishment of Cassava Processing Center, family labor utilization, meaning children now mature to assist with labor farm-related work. Challenges encountered by cassava actor are mostly occupational, economic, and few sociocultural challenges. Gender and regional-based constraints exist. For instance, young men in Osun State mentioned low yield, while adults female in Imo mentioned pest and weed management. Adults male in Imo mentioned fragmented land as the challenge, and adults male in both Osun and Imo State mentioned stable market demand and prices for roots. Women in Imo mentioned labor intensive as a challenge. Livelihood area of improvements were also livelihood area of improvements for occupational factors. Participants mentioned mechanization and provision of processing machine or center. Like an adult female in Osun said, there is more money in processing, but I wish I could have a processing center with less smoke because I'm afraid of the effects in the latter future. For economic factor, participants mentioned provision of and access to funds, as well as improved and availability of markets. And a quote validating that was mentioned by an adult male said, market situation drives cassava production and processing. And for sociocultural factors, capacity building as well as group membership was mentioned as areas of improvement for both men and women. In conclusion, cassava livelihood serve as primary options, engaging men, women, youth, adults, and more socially identified groups such as non-indigenous or migrants, retirees, and students. Within the period of 10 years, adult women switched from non-farming to farming occupation due to sustenance of household food security and ability to pay fee at interval, thus validating the inclusion and prioritization of cassava food product quality traits and in-ground durability for piecemeal harvesting that will enable the payment of school fee of children at interval. Thirdly, economic assets peculiar to owned and aspired for among women is processing machine like miller and processing center establishment. This highlights the importance of mechanization in some processing activities done by mostly women and breeding prioritization of processing traits to reduce drudgery and time. The independence and recognition sociocultural related influence that cassava related livelihood has over time given to men and women belonging to identified social segments can be more impactful when complemented with required capacity building needs by each tasked group. Improving well-being status for women identified the availability and use of family labor for weeding, a peculiar challenge to women farmers, thus validating and informing the proper targeting of variety that suppresses weeds. Overall, this study establishes that cassava-related livelihoods and impacts over time is not limited to food and economic benefits. Among women especially, its relevance extends to socio-cultural impacts and aspirations to power and freedom in making major life decisions. Thank you for listening.